All right, so let's go ahead and look at this. We know we have a hyperbola, and we know that because the sign in between the two values is negative. The sign right here, whenever that sign is negative, we know that we have a hyperbola. So what else do we know about this graph and how to look at it? Well, we know that the center of this is at -4, +1. With the parabola, what is important is which value is first. So in this piece, because we have this first term, this x term is positive, what that tells us here is that my transverse axis is x, and that's really important. That tells us that hyperbola is going to open up something that looks like this. It's going to open up along this transverse axis. Now, A and B are not necessarily larger or smaller than them. Whatever is underneath the transverse axis is A, meaning whichever one is positive. So in this case, I know that A squared is equal to 9, or A is equal to 3. I know that B squared is equal to 25. So B in this case is equal to 5. I go through and find C. C for the hyperbolas is defined as A squared plus B squared, or 9 plus 25, or 34. So C then is equal to the square root of 34. And we need C to find the foci. So the things that we need to find here, we need to find the vertices of the hyperbola, and we need to find the foci. We talked about this before in the last graph, but because the transverse axis is x, what this means is the x values change. The reason for this is a horizontal line, and on a horizontal line, this is always a y line. So all of the y values stay the same as the x values that change. So to find the vertices, I take the center, which is -4, and I add that to A for the first one. The y value stays the same as +1. The next vertice is going to be the same thing. It's going to be -4, only this time I subtract A from it. And again, we said earlier that A was equal to 3. So that is just the x value of the center. And in this case, I then subtracted A. My next piece here is that the y value is the same as the y value of the center of that piece. So what I'm left with for the vertices of this hyperbola, it would be -1, 1, and -7, 1. Now for the foci is determined by the x value in this case, plus or minus C for those two pieces. So for my foci, it's just going to be -4 plus the square root of 34. My y value still is 1. And then -4 minus the square root of 34. And my y value here is still 1. The next thing I need to find are the two equations for the slant asymptotes that we have. Let me go ahead and minimize this just a little bit and talk about how I'm going to find those. All right, so if we're talking about this, we need to find those slant asymptotes. So if we recall, our hyperbola is going to look something like the center where the blue dot is, and then I'm going to have a piece on this side going this way, and a piece on this side going this way. So the next thing we need to find are these slant asymptotes. One positive and one negative. Well, how do I find those? So it's best to just look at a small portion of this. Imagine this being the center of the graph. Over here is one of your vertices. And then let's take a look at that piece. How far from the center to the vertex? The center to the vertex is A. The vertical distance from the center going up, that portion is B. Now, part of this here, if you look at this, that's going to be our asymptote. Our asymptote in this case is always, let's look at this as the rise over the run. So the slope of this is going to be B over A on one side, and then negative B over A on the other. So this equation for them is going to be given by y is equal to k plus or minus b over a x minus h. So this equation for those asymptotes will now be y is equal to 1 plus or minus 5/3 x plus 4. So we'll go ahead and graph this on the next slide. I'm just going to go ahead and copy all of our information over. So let's go ahead and start to graph this. So what I have here, my center is at -4, 1. So my center of the vertex is right here. The vertices of this graph are going to be -1, 1, and -7, 1. All right, so I have my center point here, and then my two vertices. Those two vertices will actually be part of the graph. All right, so the next thing I want to go ahead and draw in here are my guide points for my rectangle from helping me draw this. So what I want to do is from my center point, I want to go ahead and go up B. I want to go up 5, and then from my center point, I want to go down 5. Now when I'm doing this, I'm keeping my x value the same, and my y value is changing. So I am going up 5. If I go up 5, that's going to give me -4, 6. Which will be right here. And if I go down 5 from here, that's going to be -4, -4, which will be right here. And I'm going to use these points to draw in that rectangle that I need to help me guide those asymptotes. So my asymptotes are going to come in the diagonal of my box on this direction, other diagonal of my box going through in this direction, and now I'm all set. I have got my vertices. I draw my hyperbola on the right hand side and go ahead and draw it in on the, so that is the graph of my hyperbola. The only thing left to graph with this are the foci, so we need to turn the foci over here. We need to turn those into decimals. So -4. So this right here is 1.8. This second x value, -4 minus the square root of 34, is going to be -9.8. So at 1.81, so that's almost 2. It's about here. And my other foci is almost 10 and up 1. So about there. So now I have absolutely all the points that I need for this graph.